In today's video, Magnus Carlsen, the GOAT, he plays one of the greatest queen stacks of his entire career and maybe one of the greatest queen stacks in the history of the game. And of course, it all starts on move 8. Here on move 8, Anish Giri, he defends the hanging bishop on b5 with the move a4. And beyond that, black's knight on d4 is under a pin by the bishop to the queen. Now, Magnus, how does he respond to all of this chaos? It's very, very simple. In this insane game, Magnus Carlsen, he takes the bishop on b5, but in doing so, he sacrifices the queen, and Anish Giri accepts the sacrifice. Absolute insanity. How did this game finish? Let's find out. In the game here, Anish Giri playing as white, opens 1e4, best by test, and Magnus, he goes 1c5, the Sicilian defense, the sharpest and most combative response to 1e4. This is going to be a fighting game. All right, Anish Giri, knight f3, then knight c6, and then here, instead of d4, white plays the main move these days, that is bishop b5, the Rossolimo, putting pressure on that knight on c6 right away. Now here, black has a lot of different options. You can go, for example, e6, or g6, or knight f6, or d6, and on and on and on. There are a ton of options here, but in the game, Magnus plays arguably the main line these days, that is simply the move e6. Now, this move is very, very strong. The idea being, you're trying to support this knight on c6 with the other knight by going knight g to e7. That way, if white ever takes on c6 like this, black can always take back with the other knight, maintaining a very, very solid pawn structure. Now, Anish, he's got one chance to capture on c6. If he doesn't do it right now, right here, then he will lose his chance as black will go knight g to e7. However, in the game, Anish, he's playing solid. He's not taking on c6 yet. Instead, castles is the move, setting up ideas like c3, d4, rook e1, and so on. Now, Magnus, he goes knight g to e7, all according to plan, simply bolstering his other knight on c6. Now, Anish, he's got two main options here. Either d4, the more combative idea, or rook to e1, a very solid move, is also very, very strong. In the game, he does go d4, heading for a delayed open Sicilian. Black here, he takes on d4. White takes back, and here Magnus has many, many ideas as usual. For example, queen to c7 or b6 is strong, a6 is good, knight g6 is good, and even knight takes d4 is also good. In the game, though, Magnus plays a move that I really, really like for black here. Queen to b6. This move puts maximum pressure on the white position. The queen targets the knight on d4. It is now hanging. It targets the bishop on b5. That is also super, super loose. Here, Anish, he's got literally like one or two good moves to defend. In the game, he does go bishop to e3. Now, this move is not the strongest. The strongest here, in case you are curious, is simply taking on c6 right away like this. Instead, in the game, bishop e3 was chosen, and the problem with this move right here is the bishop on b5 is very vulnerable. Black here plays the move knight takes d4, removing the defender of the bishop. If white takes back with the bishop or the queen, then black takes on b5, and black is completely winning on move 7 or 8. It's totally insane. Therefore, white here has only one response to save the game. Now, real fast, if you like puzzles, try and find Anish Giri's move right here to keep the game alive as white. The move here, of course, is going to be a4, expanding on the queen side and bolstering the bishop on the b5 square. Now, it cannot be taken. However, Magnus Carlsen, being the GOAT, being the greatest player of all time, and just an absurdly insane player at the chessboard, he finds an idea right now that simply left the entire chess world completely speechless. And no, I am not exaggerating. Here in this position, he played one of the most ludicrous queen sacks in the history of the game. Of course, this is the move knight takes b5, winning another minor piece, but giving up the queen on b6. Anish, he takes on b6, black takes back, and now fortunately for Magnus, the knight on b5 cannot be taken, as then you lose the rook on the a1 square. Okay, let's slow down and take inventory. What the heck has just happened? Here, Magnus, he is missing the queen. That much is obvious. But what did he get in return? He got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 minor pieces versus the one of Anish Giri. Magnus Carlsen giving up his queen for 4 minor pieces. To recap, on move 8 right here, a4, Black already won the knight on d4. Then he wins the bishop on b5, and then he wins the bishop on b6. 1, 2, 3 minor pieces are regained, and we have a fight on our hands. All right, Anish Giri, it's his turn to move. How does he want to proceed? Obviously, you can't take on b5, as then you lose the rook. Here, the computer loves the idea of queen d3, targeting the weak knight on b5, and then sliding over to g3 like this with the queen. Instead, Anish Giri, on this move right here, he finds a much weaker idea that is simply knight d2, sliding over the knight, therefore defending rook a1, and finally re-attacking the knight on the b5 square. But this move is way, way weaker. It's simply too slow and does not meet the demands of the position. And now, Magnus Carlsen, despite playing the most absurd queen sack of all time, is now fighting back in this game. Magnus here, he finds the key response. Knight d6, an excellent square for that knight, targeting e4 and eyeing a whole bunch of very useful squares. Here, Anish Giri, e5 is the move, attacking that knight, and Magnus, all he does here is simply knight d to f5, jumping over with that knight, and actually f5 is a very good square for that piece. The other knight may go to, say, d5, and Black now is actually getting pretty good squares overall for his pieces. Now, Anish, how does he want to continue? In the game, he jumps in, knight to e4. He's spotting the weak d6 square, and he wants to jump in right here, right now. But there's one problem with this move. Why did he not go knight c4, also targeting d6, but as well targeting b6, the weak pawn there? Why did he not do this? I honestly don't know. Instead, knight e4 played in the game, and this is just a weaker version of knight c4. And again, Anish Giri is letting Magnus off the hook. He's giving him chances to fight back, and Magnus Carlsen, this guy, does not need 2 chances to fight back in the game. Here, Magnus, knight c6, a good square for that piece, eyeing the weak e5 pawn, and white has to defend. From here, Anish Giri, g4, drives away that knight from f5, but now, knight to h4, and shockingly, the knight on the rim, it's not that dim. It's very hard to attack it. It's eyeing a lot of key squares, and overall, if Black needs to, it can always go back to g6 and then f5, finding a new home in this game. And Anish Giri's pawns on the king side are temporarily blockaded. Here, Anish, f4 is the move, but Magnus, he is not amused. h5, a move in the spirit of the Berlin endgame in the Ruy Lopez opening. Black here trying to keep his rook on the h8 square and open up this file here for the rook. The idea is simple. If h3, he takes on g4 like this, opening up the scope of his rook on the h8 square, and despite not moving out the first square, the rook would now be very, very active. Anish Giri, he sees this. He defends h3, but this move is a little bit too passive. Instead, simply g5, trying to keep the g file closed, or sorry, the h file closed, would have been the better response. Now from here, we have h takes, then h takes, and then finally Magnus Carlsen finds a really, really strong idea. d5, gaining space in the center, giving white the option of capturing en passant, but very importantly, he's beginning to unwind his pieces. The bishop now is scoped on d7 to get out into the game somehow, some way. From here, Anish Giri, he takes on d6, en passant. E takes d6 is the move, and Black obviously cannot take back yet. So what does he do? He simply goes here, rook to a5. Magnus, the rook lift on the 5th rank, the rook now being active on this file right here. Completely absurd and a very creative way to get the rook into the game. Now, Anish, he sees this. He's not slowing down. c4 is the move, gaining space on the queen side. Now, Magnus, f5, counterattacking against the knight on e4, as well as this pawn on the g4 square. Magnus Carlsen playing a series of absolutely absurd moves. Knight to h4, h5, rook to a5, and then f5. Magnus Carlsen literally breaking every rule in the game, not to mention sacking the queen on move 8. I mean, who does this guy think he is? Magnus Carlsen? All right, from here, Anish Giri, he finds a very, very, and I mean very strong pawn sack. b4, pushing back the knight. Now, of course, this move, it does give up a pawn. However, Anish Giri, he calculates it all out. He knows if the knight takes on b4, it deflects the knight away, and white will get his chances. Here in the game, Black takes on b4, but now Anish finds another creative pawn sack, d7, giving up 2 pawns in a row on b4 and then d7. Anish Giri, he knows this game is mission critical. He does not want to lose the most famous queen sack game of all time. Here, black takes on d7 like this, but then Anish Giri, knight to d6. That was the entire idea of the second pawn sack, clearing the way for the knight to jump into the d6 square where the pawn used to be. From here, black, he takes on d6. White takes back, and then knight to c6. The knight drops back and defends a lot of critical squares, including b8. And by the way, that was part of the idea of b4 played earlier, deflecting this knight away from the defense of the b8 square. That way, after d7 and queen takes d6, the queen would eye that square with tempo. Really, really astonishingly deep stuff. But here, Anish Giri, despite clawing back into this game, he makes a critical mistake right here. He plays the move simply rook c to d1. Now, this move right here looks so incredibly obvious. You slide the rook over, pile up pressure on the d file. What could possibly be wrong with this move right here? It's very, very simple. This move... Black here has a very simple defense that shuts down all of white's play instantly. And if you like puzzles, pause the video right now and try to find the simple way for Magnus Carlsen to shut down the entire attack of Anish Giri. It really is a cool idea. And by the way, real fast, this video is sponsored by me. If you are watching endless YouTube videos like my own and you're not improving at online chess, I have the solution for you. All you have to do is go to drmikechess.com. It is my free online chess community with tons and tons of resources to help you improve at chess freakishly fast. My best student right now gained 300 ELO in less than 30 days using my methods that I teach in that community. So if you want to skyrocket your rating like my best students, go there right now, drmikechess.com. Links also down below in the description and the pinned comment of this video down there below this video. Now, back to the video. From here, Magnus, he finds the idea. Bishop to c8. A very typical Magnus move, sliding back the bishop, back to the back rank, but here's the idea. The bishop controls d7. The knight controls d8. Therefore, Magnus Carlsen, he has no way to infiltrate with the queen. The queen and the rook looking so strong here, but there is no way into enemy territory, at least not further into enemy territory. Here, Anish Giri, he goes g5, trying his hardest to keep the g file closed. He knows Magnus Carlsen is getting his counterplay, but here, of course, Magnus is not done. He simply plays the move knight to g... He simply flies back with his knight, knight g6, finding a better square for the piece and opening up the scope of the rook on the h file. Now Anish, simply rook to f2. His idea, potentially rook to d2, trying to triple up pieces on the g file, on the d file here. But Magnus, he's not done. He plays the move king to f7, defending e6, a weird bong cloud-ish style move. Now queen c7 hits the king. However, knight c to e7 blocks the attack in its tracks. Now, rook d8, Anish Giri trying to trade off pieces. He's trying to earn his title as the king of draws by trading off pieces and simplifying here. But Magnus, of course, he's not letting him off the hook that easy. Here, Magnus, he takes on d8. White takes back, and then, bada boom, bada bang, rook takes a4. Magnus, he's begun his journey of gobbling up all of the white pawns. The queen goes to c7, defending. Queen c7, defending the pawn on the c4 square. However, here, Magnus, e5. What is the idea? An absolutely astonishing pawn sack. The idea is simple. Magnus here, not having the queen, he has to get some sort of fortress going with his pieces, and the idea is he wants every single piece to defend every other piece. For example, right now, these two knights defend each other perfectly. He wants every piece doing exactly that, and ideally also protecting the black king. This move e5, it's a clearance sacrifice. He wants to go bishop e6 with the bishop controlling c4 and everything defending everything else around the black king. Here, Magnus, he plays the move f takes e5, winning the pawn, but now bishop e6. Black achieves a mini fortress around the king. Look at this, a literal fortress, and of course c4 is about to fall as well. There's no easy way to defend that pawn now. Now, Magnus, he takes on b7. Queen takes b7. Rook takes c4. Queen takes b6. All of the queenside pawns have flown off the board. Now, knight takes e5. Magnus Carlsen, again, continues his journey of gobbling up literally every white pawn. If he can win the pawn on the g5 square, oh boy, Anish Giri will be as good as cooked. All right, here, rook to e2, sliding over, attacking the knight on the e5 square. However, it's not dangerous. Rook to c6, the rook flies back, attacks the queen. The queen's got to move, queen to e3 played in the game, and then simply knight 5 to g6. And here again, just look at this. Appreciate what Magnus Carlsen has done in this game despite being down the queen. Every piece supports every other piece somehow, some way. There's nothing white can attack with his queen, with his rook. Literally everything around the black king is being covered by everything else. Absolute insanity. All right, here, king to h2, played in the game. Then bishop to c4, attacks the rook. Rook to b2. The rook slides over, but now rook to e6, attacks the queen yet again. And this move is connected with an absolutely astonishing idea. The queen moves, queen to f3, but then rook to e4. Magnus Carlsen threatening rook to g4 and then taking on g5. What a display of strategy. All right, rook to b7. The rook flies down to the back rank. Then bishop to e6, defending. King to g1. Now, king g1, the king slides back, but then rook g4 hits the king as well as the pawn on the g5 square. That pawn, again, is going to fall in short order. King to h2, the king slides up. Rook takes g5, rook to b6, and now bishop d5. Magnus Carlsen is going on the attack. He hits the queen. He skewers the queen and the g2 square behind it. Rook g2 is being threatened next. And what can Anish Giri do? Queen to e3 is the move. Rook g2 hits the king. King to h3 and then rook to g4. Now king to h2. F4, the pawn marches down the board, attacks the queen. The queen must move. Queen to d4 is the move, but now rook g6. But now rook g5 once again defends the bishop, and black has everything, and I do mean everything, under complete lockdown here. Rook d6 played in the game. Now f3, the pawn marches down. Will Magnus Carlsen get a new queen? Oh, would that be an ironic finish to this game? I would not want to be Anish Giri if that is actually what happens here. All right, rook d7 played, pinning the knight. Then rook to f5, escorting the pawn down the board. Queen to g4, bishop to e6 with the discovered attack potentially on the queen yet again. Magnus Carlsen is just relentless in this game. He will not give Anish Giri an inch. All right, rook d1. The rook flies back. Knight to e5. Hits the queen. Queen to h4. f2. Magnus Carlsen is one move away from getting a new queen again in this game after the ludicrous move 8 queen sack. All right, king g2 played in the game. Bishop d5 hits the king. King to f1 blocks the pawn, but Magnus Carlsen is not done. Bishop to c4 hits the king, forcing the king off the f1 square. The king goes to g2, and Magnus Carlsen in the final move of this game, oh boy, f1, promoting to a queen. He gets the new queen he dreamed of, and in this position, Anish Giri, knowing he has to give up the rook, oh, he has to resign on the spot. He's going to be down 3 minor pieces plus the rook plus the pawn, and that is just too much versus the GOAT, the greatest chess player of all time, and the owner of the most absurd, ludicrous, ludicrous, and diabolical queen sack in the history of the game, all the way back on, let's see, move 8, right here. Knight takes b5. This move will go down in chess history. All right, Chess YouTube, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please show me some love. Smash that like button, comment down below what you thought of this insane queen sack by Magnus Carlsen. This one move right here. All right, Chess YouTube, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please show me some love. Smash that like button, comment down below. What did you think of this queen sack by Magnus? Please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one right here. And by the way, again, if you are watching endless YouTube videos about chess and not making any progress, again, I have the solution for you. It is drmychess.com. It is my free online chess community. Right now, we're gaining 10 to 30 people literally every single day. It is exploding right now. We have over 430 people there right now, all learning, all improving, and so on. So if you want to level up your chess so fast it feels illegal, go to drmychess.com. The link's right there. Also down below in the description and the pinned comment of this video. I will see you there, and let's get started. And as always, I wish you the best of luck in your chess improvement journey in 2025 and beyond. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.